Hello, we're just getting started with our live stream today. I'm Nathan, the International Student Coordinator for Google Hanguk, and today we have a special guest that I'll introduce very shortly. As you know, due to the COVID-19, we're wearing our masks for safety, and since we'll be close to each other, we'll keep them on during the interview as well. So hello to all of you that are joining on Instagram and YouTube. Thanks for joining us. It's just past 11 a.m. in Korea, and maybe it's morning or night during the day where you are. Thank you for joining us. Just some reminders before we invite our guests. We are accepting applications for the winter term, that is the term that starts in December. So if you have any questions about the application process or are in the middle of it, please be sure to contact us and submit your documents appropriately. And if you'd like to study later during 2021 or even later than that, feel free to contact us anytime. We can, of course, give you advice on the application process, the visa, and accommodations as usual. And also, all of our study trips are also updated through the summer of 2021. So if you go to studytrip.com, you can also see the information about all of those. Additionally, our online Korean course just launched this past Monday. It reopened for the full 10-week course in collaboration with Hanguk University. So if you'd like to join that, then you can visit koreanonline.gogohanguk.com to register for the course. And I know a lot of you already did and took advantage of our promotion we had before the course opened. So we really appreciate you signing up and hope you learn a lot over these next 10 weeks. We're still filming content for that. So as you know, the course opens up kind of gradually. We'll release new units as the weeks go on. So, the cost of the online course, it's $700 US. So you can pay through the website once you register. And if you complete the whole course, you can get a certificate like you would for like you were studying offline here in Korea for the 10 weeks. So it's a level course. So if you're, say, like a level 1, then it would be good for you. There's video lessons, there's written homework assignments you can practice with. You can upload your speaking practice as well to a platform, and also there's a bulletin board online where you can write questions and chat with each other too. So we're excited to have more of you join the course, and we also can respond to questions there as well. If it's, I think I answered all the questions on the chat so far. And I think those were all the updates to give for now. For some of our schools, the due date is in October, which I know is still a couple weeks away. However, we encourage you to, of course, submit your documents as soon as possible so we can review them and check them and make sure that the school will quickly approve your application so you can get your invoice. And then after paying the invoice, you can get your visa documents if you need the visa. And many of you have had questions about quarantine and the virus situation in Korea. We try to give you updates every now and then when things change. The quarantine is still in effect, so if you do visit Korea, you are subject to the 14-day quarantine. And we can give you more details about that if you have questions. And also our blog has some more information about that as well. If you're from Morocco, can you get a master's degree here? We don't really assist with degree-seeking studies. We focus on the Korean language programs. However, a lot of graduate programs will need you to have Korean language skills. So we encourage you to study Korean first if you're going to get a university degree in Korea, either undergrad or graduate. So if you're interested in studying Korean at one of our partner schools, then please get in touch with us. We'd be happy to help. Let's see. Okie dokie. I think we're ready to invite our guests. As you might have seen in the description, our guest is studying at Dongguk University, and I'll let her introduce herself. If you'd like to come have a seat, we'll try to squeeze in here. Oh, maybe we both won't fit in Instagram. That's close enough. So yeah, we've done a couple of these live streams with other students before, and we really appreciate all of them that come on our live stream to share more about the experience in Korea, because we know all of you are curious about it as well. So good to hear directly from the people that are participating in the language programs and living in Korea, besides me and Eddie, which you probably see very frequently anyway. So would you like to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, sure. My name is Amy, and I'm from Switzerland. And like I said, I'm studying at Dongguk, and I came to Korea in June. I've been here 3 months.
And then the term will start next week for fall term.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks again for coming. And I don't know if we can fit us more in Instagram or not. I think the camera angle kind of affects that. Anyway, if you have any questions during the interview portion as well, feel free to type them and we'll try to get to them as soon as possible. Otherwise, I have questions that I'll ask Amy, and we can learn more about her time and studies in Korea so far. So before coming to Korea, what was your experience with either the Korean language or culture? Maybe sparked your interest in coming to Korea?
Well, the school I was studying at in Switzerland had a lot of international students, and some of which were Korean. So I ended up becoming friends with a lot of them, and I met my boyfriend there. And so through him, I was learning more about his culture, and I came and visited with him a couple of years ago. And I also work in hospitality, so for me, languages was an interest anyway. So I decided it would be interesting to learn Korean because of those reasons, basically.
Cool. And so after learning Korean, maybe use it in hospitality or, professionally then?
Exactly, yeah. It's more, I mean, Chinese was something I was interested in as well, but I thought that's quite a big step if you've never had experience in learning maybe language with different letters than I'm used to. Yep. So I thought Korean would be a good step, and also, like I say, if I've already have an interest, I thought I could combine the two.
Yeah, sure. So you mentioned you're studying at Dongguk. I know with these challenging times with COVID, maybe it's a little different than what it would usually be. But can you tell us maybe more about Dongguk's program, either your teachers and kind of like what goes on in class? Because people do ask that a lot, like what can I expect when I'm in class in Korea?
I mean, you can definitely expect to have fun. I was very surprised. The teachers make it really interesting. They love to have fun with us, and especially I started in level 1. So there were a lot of people in my class who spoke zero Korean. So obviously it's a challenge for the teachers to try and communicate in that way. So they use a lot of gestures and like a lot of jokes and like acting to try and show us and explain to us better. But other than that, they explain that basically it's set up, we learn for the first 2 hours grammar, and then like learn the new grammar. And then the third hour is like practicing the speaking and the writing using that new grammar that we learn. And then the fourth hour is basically listening and speaking as well. So it's nicely structured that you get the whole, you learn 2 topics, I think, every day. We learn new bits of grammar. And then for the next day, you have the homework of studying that a bit more. So it's nicely set up that you move forward at quite a good pace.
Yeah. For those that aren't familiar, like the language program is designed to be kind of quick and intensive. And like Amy said, you're learning maybe a lot of material each day. And then of course, reviewing and doing homework as well. So thanks for sharing. What about like the nationalities of the other students in your class? Like, is it diverse or mostly one nationality or another?
My class was pretty diverse. I mean, half the class was from China. So a couple of students joined us a little bit later because of quarantine issues. But otherwise, there were Vietnam, there was a German guy from Sweden, from Australia. So it's quite a nice mix of people. And at first I thought maybe the language barrier would be a problem because, I mean, the people who were more from European countries, we could all speak English together. And the people from China couldn't really speak English. But we all got on really well and managed. We even went out and ate dinner together sometimes. So I was really surprised, and it was nice to meet people from different countries.
That's good. It's good to hear. Let's see, we already touched on that. Can you tell me about the area Dongguk's located in? People may look at a map and see it's kind of in the middle of Seoul, but what kind of things is it near, or neighborhoods it's near, things to do?
I'm pretty sure it's near Myeongdong.
Yes.
So it's nice. If you like shopping, it's very easy to go and take the subway. And we're quite lucky that the subway station is literally just outside the university. So it's very easy to get to. And Namsamtar is also really close, so if you want to take a break after school. But other than that, Dongguk University itself has a really nice park just outside. It's a really beautiful campus to walk around. And for me, I live in Gangnam. So at first I thought it'd be a little bit far. But even with the subway being so convenient, it's very easy to get to so many different places around Seoul. So it's a convenient location.
Good. Yeah. Have you hiked up Namsan Mountain yet?
No, I decided to wait until the weather gets a little less.
Now it's not bad,
it's
actually.
To get
today the weather's quite nice. We're in the middle of typhoon season, so maybe later in October it'll be the perfect weather for hiking. But yeah, Korea has been battered by first monsoons and then now typhoons. But yeah, hiking is very popular in Korea. You see a bunch of people geared up to go hiking. Let's see. You mentioned that your class was fun and the teachers have a lot of different ways of showing the material, especially in like level 1. Anything else you'd like to highlight about class or like the teaching that the teachers do?
I think what surprised me most, actually, I expected to come and I was a bit worried that the whole class was going to be just in Korean. So I was quite worried about not being able to understand anything. But the teachers make sure that they use quite simple language so that you can easily, I understood pretty much everything they were saying, which really surprised me and also gives you a bit of confidence. And basically just the way the teachers are, how they communicate with us is really nice. And even in the breaks, they're really friendly and try and talk to you as much as possible and encourage you. So that really made me excited to go to school, because I didn't feel like it was, because it can be a lot, especially, for example, if you're not used to reading Korean, it can sometimes it's quite a lot to take in one go. Right. Even though the class is only 4 hours, it can be a lot to learn. So it's really nice if it's a fun atmosphere and you're looking forward to going.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think that I really appreciated that from the teachers, that they motivate you a lot.
Yeah, that's good.
It's really nice.
I think they have to, especially when they know that people may not understand anything that they're saying. So yeah, that's good to hear. I think a lot of people are worried about that too, that the language barrier, or that they won't understand anything from not only the teachers, but their other students, that they can't make friends easier. So that's very good to hear. Dongguk's doing a good job hiring staff. You've been in Korea for about 3 months now. Are there any differences or things that are the same compared with your expectations before coming here to live, and the reality of being in Korea and studying?
I was quite lucky because I already visited Korea before. I kind of had an idea of what to expect. But other than that, the weather, actually the weather's the thing that I've had to get used to the most, because of so much humidity and rain. Right. It's been a bit of an adjustment. But other than that, it's Switzerland's quite a small country, so compared to that, it's quite a difference living in such a big city and with so many people. But really, it's more convenient. So it's just been getting used to how convenient it is and being able to go so many different places so easily. But other than that, it's been really helpful. Obviously, like I was studying a little bit Korean before I came here, but I think it's really hard to study if you are not living there and seeing Korean everywhere and every day.
Right.
So now I've just finished level 1, so I learned the basic a little bit. So it's now just trying to get the confidence to speak when I go out.
Right.
So, but that's really useful to be able to go to coffee shops and try and speak with people. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember one student we had, I think they'd come from a town of like 10 or 20,000 people. And I'm like, there's like 1,000 more people in Seoul, just Seoul. So like for every one person you see in your hometown, there's 1,000 people here in Korea. So they were like really overwhelmed, I think, when they first got to Seoul. Because I think recently in the news, I saw that Seoul now has, like if you include Gyeonggi-do as well, it has half the population of Korea, like Seoul and Gyeonggi-do alone. So it used to be a little less than half, but now it's like over 20 million people live in the Seoul metro area, which is like crazy. It's like one of the most densely populated city areas in the world, I'd say.
I mean, but even that, I don't think I was expecting it to be a lot busier. Like unless you go out really at like rush hour times on the subway, then it's very busy. But other than that, you don't get the feeling like you're packed in with so many people. There are a lot of places you can still go where there's not too many people, which is nice.
Yeah, that's true. City. Yeah, like you mentioned, the park near campus, and there are other green areas in Seoul. It's not just brick and concrete buildings everywhere. So I like Seoul Forest, which is actually kind of close to here. That's quite a large park and green space, and there's other public areas as well where you can enjoy either the river or forests and things. So don't feel like you're trapped in the concrete jungle if you come to Seoul. Same thing for other cities that we have schools in as well. Let's see. So we're wearing our masks and staying healthy. Can you tell me a little bit about what you've observed here in Korea, and maybe if you had any kind of worries about traveling during the pandemic we're experiencing? I know a lot of people still ask me, like, is it safe to be in Korea? Like, how many cases are they getting and things like that? So can we touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I came, like, say 3 months ago, and at that time it was, I mean, in Korea, it wasn't really that bad at all compared to where I was back home. So I wasn't really concerned about coming to Korea because I knew that I'd be going somewhere where it wasn't as bad as where it was back home.
Right.
In regards to traveling, I mean, I didn't have any concerns. It was just a lot more work to travel. I mean, there's a lot of paperwork when you arrive in Korea that you have to fill out. But I think it just shows that they're trying to do a good job of keep regulating that. And if you have a long-term visa anyway, you don't have to, I don't know if it's changed, but I didn't have to get tested at the airport, which I was worried about at first. So it was a bit more comfortable being able to go in my own time to go and get tested.
Right.
But other than that, in the last 2 weeks, it's gotten a little worse in Korea. So now you notice it more where people really have to wear masks everywhere and things are closed a little bit. But before that, I didn't really notice much of a difference, apart from, like you say, the fact that everyone's wearing masks.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really concerned about it. If you're a bit careful now, for example, if you know that the case is going up a little bit and you don't go places where it's too crowded, then it's not too much of a concern.
Right. Yeah, there was a little increase in cases, so we're doing more social distancing in the Seoul area, especially. However, yeah, you still see people out on the streets and taking the subway, taking buses. So yeah, and arriving in Korea, I think you only get tested if you show symptoms upon arrival. Otherwise, you go to the government facility if you're just entering with your passport, or you can go to your accommodations and then get tested within 3 days if you come with a visa. So yeah, Korea is still aggressively testing for the virus. They test, like 15 or 20,000 people a day, it seems like. So compared to their population, they've tested quite a high percentage, which is good. And I think that's kept the caseload under control. Let's see. Oh, you already mentioned the weather, how it was really hot and humid during the summer. That's normal. So yeah, I think we'll get maybe 2 months of like really perfect weather, and then it'll be bitterly cold during the winter. So Korea gets like a bunch of the wind from like, I guess it's like Russia or China. It just blows right into Korea. So it does get cold and windy. Oh, how was the process at the airport when you arrived, and how did the airport staff help you out? That's a good thing maybe to go into more detail about. Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when I arrived at the airport, it's, you get off the plane and you basically just there's a lot of different steps you have to go through compared to if there wasn't the COVID-19, compared to just going through immigration. Mm-hmm. So you just have to, it took me maybe about like 2 hours to get through the airport, because you just have to fill out a lot of documents. But a lot of them are in English, like if you come from an English speaking, or even if you don't, there's I think Thai, Chinese, English, there's lots of different languages. You don't have to worry about having to speak Korean at the airport. And there's a lot of staff that will help you and they guide you through, because obviously they know that there's lots of foreigners coming as well. But other than that, the only thing they do at the airport is obviously just test your temperature. And like I say, you just have to queue up and they make you download the app on your phone, and you just have to fill in that kind of thing. So as long as you're pretty organized, like I already knew that I was going thanks to the things I would have to fill out and the things I had to do. So as long as you're organized and you know, then it's not really a problem. Like I say, it's just maybe after a long flight, I had maybe a 12-hour flight. Waiting and standing around at the airport isn't the most fun thing to do, but I mean, it's like an evil necessary to get to come to Korea.
Yeah.
But like I say, if you have any questions, they're very, you can easily ask the people there. And even if the English is not so good, they just show you what you have to do. Because I think they're using a lot of the guys from the army. There was pretty much the Korean army there at the airport. So it depends whether or not they speak English, the guys there. But like I said, it wasn't a problem for me at all. So, yeah.
Well, I was curious, like, do you complete all those steps before even going through passport control and baggage claim?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you basically, I think it's the space that usually you'd line up just before immigration.
Okay.
They've turned into basically this, or when I came, there were like tables, and you just have to line up for these extra steps.
Okay.
So before you get to the table, you just have to fill out the documents and download the app. And then there's people checking those before you then actually go to immigration.
Okay.
So it's just like an added step. But obviously with a lot of people having to do it, it just takes a while.
Okay. So after you complete all those extra steps, it's normal going through immigration and getting your bags.
Exactly.
And then you can.
Well, when you go out of the airport, then after you've come out through baggage, like to claim your baggage, there's some more checking that they do, some more paperwork, and I think they just make sure how you're going to get home.
Oh, right.
Because they don't want you obviously to just go start using the subway if you're supposed to be in quarantine.
Right.
But they have taxi drivers which are allocated there, which will take you directly to your place. I didn't go to the government facility. I went straight to, I was staying with my friends at the time, so I was allowed to go straight to his house. But they just check how you're going to get home, and afterwards, once you get out, to make sure you're not going to use public transport.
I believe they also have buses that make certain stops on certain routes. So, like if you know where you need to go, you can pick the right bus and pick a bus. But yeah, designated taxis and buses. And for those that are not studying in Seoul, if you have to go to Busan or Daegu or wherever, they will bus you from the airport to the train station, and then you take a train with, I guess, everyone that arrived with you to either Busan or Daegu, wherever you need to go. So that is one thing to note. If you're coming to Korea and you're not studying in Seoul, you still have to come to Incheon Airport. All travelers need to arrive at Incheon if they're traveling internationally to Korea. And if you have more questions about that, then just let us know. But they're doing kind of control entry to make sure that just in case you may have the virus, so make sure they know that, there's one point of entry that they can control in that sense. So one special thing to note if you're not going to be in the Seoul area. Let's see. I believe we've asked all the questions in the chat. Again, I'm here with Amy. She's studying at Dongguk University, and I'm Nathan, the International Student Coordinator for Hanguk. Thank you for joining us today. We'll proceed with the interview questions, and feel free to type any that you may have for myself or Amy during the video. Let's see. Oh, do you have any like favorite Korean words or foods or things like that you'd like to share?
I mean, Korean, it's pretty much everything.
Everything.
That's been a problem so far. There's so much good food in Korea. Probably Korean barbecue would have to be one of my favorites though, because I mean, at the minute not so much, but it's such a social thing you can go and enjoy with your friends. And I mentioned before, I went with our classmates as well. We went to have Korean barbecue, so it's quite nice to have the social part as well as the good food.
Yep.
But other than that, there's literally everywhere good Korean food, which is so nice. As for Korean word, I haven't haven't yet found one, but hopefully maybe level 2.
Yeah. For some people, they're concerned that Korean food is too spicy. There is a lot of spicy Korean food, but of course there's food that isn't. Do you like more spicy food or not so spicy food?
I'm terrible with spicy food.
Okay.
I mean, I grew up in England, so spicy is not really a thing. So, I mean, I was a bit concerned about that because, so for example, my boyfriend's always trying to get me to detect, right?
Right.
But there's so many foods you can eat that's not that spicy.
Right.
And even now, slowly, I'm starting to try more and more. So you never know, you might end up liking spicy food afterwards.
Yeah. Have you tried malatang here?
I haven't.
Okay. that was kind of like a popular food recently, but it can be very spicy. So, and let's see. Oh, we have another question about quarantine. So you said you quarantine at your accommodation since you had a visa and you could just proceed directly to your accommodation. And then the question was the test for free when you got tested for the virus?
It was free. Like I say, I went from the airport straight to my friend's house where I quarantined. And you have, I think you mentioned 3 days to go and get tested. So I went to get tested, I think, on the 2nd day. And that's absolutely free. You just have to show your passport and that you've arrived. And they basically do the rest. Okay. They just test you. It took me like 5 minutes, not even, I think. And then they send it off to the government. So yeah, there's literally nothing I had to do. I just got the test results, and they say I think can take up, I think, till the next day. But I got my test results within 3 hours. So,
oh wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, I was really surprised. But that just comes per message. Yeah. Because during your quarantine, you get, I think through KakaoTalk, I had a person that I had to contact all the time, and they would ring me and see if I was okay. So
are you alive? Are you still alive?
I mean, so they just text you and let you know. And I was even allowed to go out of quarantine a day early. She texted me and told me exactly when my quarantine finished.
Oh, great.
So I was quite lucky with that. But so it was pretty easy.
That sounds quite convenient. Then.
Yeah. But I think most testing's free in Korea if you have to go get tested. But I think if you want to get tested, you have to pay.
Yes,
I think
that's
right. What I've heard.
So if you're arriving in Korea, then the testing procedure is free. So if you arrive with symptoms and get tested at the airport, free. If you do what you did and you get tested within 3 days of arrival, also free. And then if you're going to the government facility, that testing process is free. Obviously, you have to pay to be in the facility for the room and food, but the actual testing and things like that is free. Recently, they changed the policy. If you arrive and you have the virus, then you're responsible for the cost of treating you. But let's say now that you're in Korea, you're living in Korea, God forbid you get the virus, then the treatment price is kind of based on how Koreans are responsible in your country of citizenship, I believe. So the price may vary also depending on what insurance coverage you may have and things like that. So yeah, in terms of the testing, you don't have to worry about the testing if you arrive to Korea. If later you develop symptoms and you're like, oh my gosh, maybe I have the virus, then depending where you go, the fee may vary. I believe like a private hospital is able to charge some nominal fee to process you for testing. And then of course, there's also public hospitals and health centers where you could get tested as well. I think we missed a question. Oops. Do you have any Korean books that you can recommend for beginners? At least for our language schools, all of them publish their own, I believe. So you can, of course, get ones that are published from our language schools. But I mean, there's plenty of resources out there. Do you have any resources you recommend for people? Maybe they want to study a little bit before they come to Korea.
I mean, I used, I think it's quite a popular one. It's called Talk to Me in Korean. I know they have the books. I actually bought them a couple of years ago when I first came to Korea. And I find them really helpful, actually. They're really easy to be able to study by yourself. And if you don't want to buy the books, they also have the online courses, which are also for free. So I definitely recommend that because they do really easy the grammar. And for me, when I was in Dongguk during the level 1, a lot of the topics I already knew because of those books. So it was nice to repeat a little bit, and it's also nice to have a little bit of knowledge if the class is completely in Korean, that you know a little bit what they're talking about already. So it just helps a little bit. So I definitely recommend those books. They are a real help to me.
Cool. I also used the material many years ago, maybe over 5 years ago. So it's a really popular resource, and a lot of people use it. Another question: what types of accommodations are available for students? So we can assist you with getting either a dormitory, mini studio, which is also called a goshiwon in Korea, a share house, or homestay. So if you'd like to maybe get your own accommodation or live with a friend, that's perfectly okay too. You can contact us and let us know what you're looking for. The price point is kind of varying depending, location, and if you're in a share house, if you have a private bedroom or shared bedroom, what kind of mini studio you're looking for, of course, the location and things like that. So just let us know what you're planning on, and we can help you out. In terms of cost, probably the dormitory is one of the least expensive options, because they're designed for students and you're close to campus, so they are also convenient. You can roll out of bed and be at class in just a couple minutes. I think we got the questions. Yes. Oops. I keep touching the wrong thing on the phone. Okay. Let's see. Go back to our list here. Are there any things you'd like to make sure you do before either you leave Korea or that you had planned on definitely doing when you got here?
I'm trying to travel around a little bit, especially now with coffee shops and stuff. We're not allowed to go and sit in them. Right. I think most of them are closed. Right. So I've been using the opportunity actually to go and have a look around a bit of the more outsidey things. You mentioned Seoul Forest. Yeah. I went there the other day. And especially now the weather's getting nicer. But other than that, because I was planning while I was in Korea to travel around Asia a bit in the holidays we have. I think between each semester we have 2 weeks holiday. But now that's a little bit harder with the going back in and out of Korea with quarantine time. So just using the opportunity to travel around Korea and see different things. And checking what Korea has to offer.
Cool. Maybe after typhoon season, you can go to Jeju if you haven't been already.
No, I'd love to go.
Let's see. Yeah. I think we got it. Let's see. We kind of touched on accommodations already, but you said you live in the Gangnam area. Can you tell a little bit more about maybe that neighborhood for people that don't know, and your like commute to school or things like that?
Well, Gangnam is a really, like if you want to live in a really central area where there's like shops everywhere, restaurants, if you want to go out at night, it's a really good place actually. It's really convenient and spending a lot of money. It's a bit difficult if like 2 minutes away from your house is the main shopping street. But other than that, the
you're
subway,
just like right in the center of it all.
Oh, okay. So very close. Yeah, and I mean with the subway, like I think I mentioned before, it's so easy to get around. Like the subway station, I have to change once, but it's still only about like 30-40 minutes with the subway to school, so that's really nice. So it's the timing from the schools. I miss the rush hour, so that's nice as well. So
that's good.
Yeah, it's a really nice place to live. It's not too busy as well. It's lively, but like we mentioned before, it's you don't feel like you're living in a really crowded area. And I thought at first it'd be a bit noisy because it is the main street, but actually it's quite quiet. You don't hear traffic at all, and so it's really nice. And there's buses as well if you don't want to use the subway, and taxis, especially around Gangnam, are very easy to catch because there's quite a few going around.
Right.
So it's a really convenient place to live, and even though it's on the other side of Han River, it's not that far to Dongguk.
And also, if you study at Lexus Korea, they're like right outside of Gangnam Station, exit 5, I believe. So if you study at Lexus Korea, then you can live really, basically in the heart of Gangnam, right near the station too. They have, or we have some accommodation options that are very close. So you can enjoy Gangnam there as well. In terms of our other schools too, like Dongguk and Hanyang, they're online too, which is where like Yeoksam Station and Gangnam Station are. So if you live online too, it's very, very easy to get around to all of Seoul really, and you can make connections to the other lines, as Amy said. And the question we have to ask all our people that we have on our live stream, can you tell us more about our service, what Hanguk helped you with, and just kind of like the process of applying and then coming to Korea with us?
Yeah, sure. I mean, honestly, I probably couldn't have done it without you.
Oh, that's great to hear.
I was planning at first on going to just a language school, actually Lexus Korea, but that was I had the plan separately without Hanguk. But then I started seeing people in Korea who were going to university, so I looked into that more. But I think alone the process is quite daunting because the thought of having to apply to university, there's a lot more paperwork than if you just apply to the language schools.
Right.
So I was really grateful actually to find a service that was for free, especially in that I asked so many questions and sent so many emails, but also just having you like put it out and tell me exactly what the documents were that I needed and available anytime I could ask a question, or is this okay, is this not okay? So it was really, really helpful to have, especially when you're unsure of how things work in Korea, what exactly you need. So it was really helpful to have someone I could always ask questions to. And even now, when I'm in Korea, I've been asking questions.
Yes.
So even that's really helpful to have someone that you can go to when you really need help with all the documents kind of thing. Because like I say, that can be quite a daunting process to have to do that all by yourself.
Right.
So it's nice to have some support.
Yeah, and we try to reply pretty quickly. If you're able to speak English, then you'll go directly through me, and I try to get back to you within like 1 business day. So like if you email on Friday, I may not get back to you till Monday, but our normal response time is like 1 to 3 business days, which I think is pretty quick in the grand scheme of things. If you have something like really urgent, especially for our students that are already here in Korea, you can get in contact with us a bunch of different ways, but generally we email because there's a lot of documents we have to send back and forth. I may attach like 10 different things for you to review when you apply. So email is our main method of helping you with the process. And then, yeah, we try to be very quick with our response and get you the information you need and answer your questions, since we know that can, of course, make the process easier and hopefully less daunting for you. So if you have just general questions about the application process or the visa, you may need to come to Korea, then feel free to ask us. We don't charge anything to you. You can ask us a million questions and we'll be so happy to answer you. Even when you're in Korea, as Amy said, you may have questions about, just life living in Seoul or living in Busan or Daegu, wherever you are. Feel free to still keep in touch. We'd love to hear from you and make sure you're still alive. And then, of course, if you come to Korea, you're living life, you're doing great, that's also fine. We hope you learn a lot in Korean language school and really maximize your opportunity abroad. Even with these kind of weird times we're living in with the pandemic, we hope that you take full advantage of studying somewhere else, learning a new culture and language, and again, maximizing your time in Korea. So I think we got through all our major questions I had written down. If you have any other questions for Amy or myself or about Google Hanguk in general, please be sure to leave them in the chat. As many of you know, we're limited time for our live stream due to Instagram. So we will post the video on, I believe it goes to Instagram TV now. You can rewatch the stream, or on YouTube, you can also watch it. Again, we'll update the information and stuff later. Otherwise, if you don't have any other questions, we'll wrap it up here soon. I'm glad the weather is getting better because it was, well, if we don't get any more typhoons, then it will be fine. Yeah, we went through just like weeks of rain and now rain and wind, but finally the weather is like kind of decent now. So fall is my favorite time in Korea. I think it's a tough choice between spring and fall, but for me it's the fall, because in the spring we have like all the pollen and dust and stuff. So at least in the fall we don't have that. It's similar temperature.
Yeah, the humidity.
Yeah,
it's tough to handle.
Yeah, it gets humid.
Coming from countries where there's not much humidity.
Yeah,
it's quite tiring.
My friend who recently moved back to Switzerland, he sent me a couple of pictures. He lives like in the countryside.
Oh, nice.
I was like, oh, it looks like a postcard. Like every picture looks like a postcard to me. Mountains and hills and blue skies and green farms and yeah. Yes, we're still answering questions. If you'd like to post some questions, Rose, question on Instagram, or sorry, YouTube, perhaps. If you have any questions, please feel free to jot them down in the chat. We will be happy to answer them. We're still here. Is there anything else you'd like to share, like in general, about your studies at Dongguk or what you've experienced in Korea so far, just to kind of wrap up?
I mean, I would recommend it 100%, especially I know a lot of people at the minute I think are concerned about traveling with COVID-19. And I mean, I was very lucky. I knew quite a few people in Korea, so for me, it wasn't such a worry that I'd be alone in Korea. But I think from what I experienced at school, you can make friends so easily and you get on so well with so many people.
Yeah.
And I think you just shouldn't be afraid to come and like just talk to people, like not be afraid to really make friends. And I think there are a lot of Koreans as well who are interested in making foreign friends if you're interested in that. So it's very easy to try and practice Korean a lot. So just don't be afraid to come. I think Koreans are really friendly and open. And like I say, the people at school are really nice and it's really convenient to get around. It's not like you have to be worried if you can't speak the language. Like even if you're worried about reading Korean, a lot of it's written in like the Romanized.
Right.
So that's not a problem as well, because sometimes if I'm tired, I don't want to read the Korean,
Right.
so just read the romanization. But I was worried about getting around on the subway and the bus as well. But if you download the right apps, they have them in English as well.
Yeah.
It's really easy. It's really convenient. So I was really surprised by myself that I was able to so quickly use the subway and stuff like that. So really, there's nothing to worry about coming to Korea. You definitely will learn.
Yeah, I was in language school, I guess, almost 6 years ago now. But yeah, I have friends that I still keep up with from level 1, level 2. Been to their weddings and everything. So yeah, it's a great opportunity to meet people that you otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to meet possibly. So let's see, we have YouTube question. Yeah, so the partner schools that we have are Hanguk University, Dongguk, and Gangnam University in Seoul, and then our private academy partner, Lexus Korea. I don't know, maybe we talked about this before, but do you want to kind of go over like what you do in class, like, reading and writing and things like that again? So someone asked, like, comparing to another program. So I don't know exactly how it might compare one-to-one, but you can hear at least about Dongguk's program again.
I mean, it's like I said before, it's really well set up. That we have the books from Dongguk. I think they publish themselves.
Right.
So I mean, the teachers obviously know that really does stuff really well. And it's from level 1, it's really well organized, that you learn really in a good order. And like I said, the first couple of hours, you're just practicing the grammar and learning about the new grammar and how to use it. And then in the last, the 2 other hours, it's just practicing the writing and the speaking. We speak with each other in class. And actually, sometimes they make us record ourselves or just like with speaking so that we can listen back to it and send it to a teacher. And actually, I have to say the teachers as well, sometimes if you have questions about the homework or anything, like I'll text them at like 12 o'clock at like midnight and they still respond back.
Wow, they're dedicated.
So they're really, you can really contact them at any time. So I was really surprised by the support, because from back home, I'm used to just having your teacher available in the lesson, or you email them and don't get a response for like a couple of days. So
that's dedication.
Yeah,
Answer game
really
nice.
It's really nice. You can contact them all the time and send them so many voice messages. They like actually encourage us to do that, like practice at home.
Yeah.
So they really focus on everything. It's not just one thing, speaking or writing. They really help us practice everything.
That's good.
So yeah, it's really well focused on everything.
Good, a balanced approach.
Exactly, yeah.
Let's see. Asked, do you get access to other facilities as a language student? That kind of depends on the school. I believe you can access the certain facilities at Dongguk as a language student as well. It depends on the school though. So if you have a specific question about one of our schools, then just let us know. Another question, can you start at the lowest level, and if you get placed in a higher level, can you start? Oh, if you get placed at a higher level after the placement test, I guess. I believe you can elect to start at a lower level if you want. However, you may be kind of bored. Like say you take the placement test and you get like level 2, but you'd rather start at level 1. It may be like kind of a review. So I think that's something you can discuss with the teachers and the staff at the school. If say you get placed in a high level, but you'd like to start at a more lower level. Personally, my experience when I took the placement test, the teacher said, well, you can be challenged in level 2, or you may be bored in level 1. You may find it's a review. And I elected to be challenged and start at level 2. So my personal advice is to challenge yourself. And if you get placed in a level, then go ahead and try that. Otherwise, if you really think it would be too difficult for you, you can discuss with your teachers and find what level would be best for you. Let's see. Can you tell me if there's scholarships available? So some of our schools give like small discounts or refunds on your tuition depending on your performance. So I know Dongguk gives a couple, like if you're one of the top 5 students or something like that. It depends on the school. So if you have a specific question about one of our language schools, then we can tell you if they offer that kind of system or not. Unfortunately, it's not like 100% covered, and it's only after you study, like based on your performance of the term. So the previous term. So if you're interested in learning more about that, then just contact us and let us know. At Hanguk, are students able to access libraries or join clubs, etc.? I believe at Hanguk you can go to the library, but yeah, if you have a specific question, then maybe email me and ask about Hanguk specifically or not, and we can check and look into that more for you. Again, it depends on the school. Same thing for clubs. It depends on the school and also the clubs. Like, for example, if you want to join a club, they may need you to speak pretty good Korean, depending like what kind of club it is. If you join like a debate club, then maybe you need pretty high level of Korean if they're going to be debating in Korean. Some schools have like targeted clubs and organizations specifically for foreigners and their Korean student population to interact. But again, that depends on the school. So yeah, you can of course contact us more with more detailed questions if you'd like. You're very welcome. I think I answered all the questions in the YouTube chat now. We have like about 5-ish minutes left, so please let us know if you have any other questions. We'll try to get to them. Kongguk does have their own language program. We support Kongguk and Dongguk and Hanyang and Lexus Korea in Seoul. And we partner with Gangnam University in the Daegu area and Shila and Gyeongsang in the Busan area. And actually Lexus Korea also has a location in Busan as well. So if you study at Lexus Korea, they follow the same curriculum. So you could study like 4 weeks in Seoul and 4 weeks in Busan, and the curriculum would still follow you to their other campus. I think covered all the questions now. You're welcome. So yeah, we have a couple minutes left here. Oh, is it expensive to study in Korea? That's kind of relative to what you believe expensive is. But in general, if you want to study long-term, like with a student visa, then you need to have the equivalent of 10,000 US dollars to get visa sponsorship. That's because the schools have to prove to immigration that you can support yourself while you study. Because even with the student visa, you have to wait until you get permission to work part-time. They want to make sure you have studying as a priority and also learn a bit of Korean before you enter the workforce. Of course, both for your benefit and your employers. So if that's expensive to you, then of course, be financially prepared when you come to Korea. You don't want to be in a financial situation or, when you are studying abroad, that can just add to your stress of moving to a new country and going to school and such. So if you want to come maybe just short term, like 3 months or something like that, then you can split that in half and say around 5,000 US dollars is a good place to start. If you want to study for a long time, like a year or more, it kind of depends on your spending habits, but you can kind of scale the 10,000 US to a longer period of time, and kind of figure out what your maybe monthly budget would be based on our interaction with the cost of school, living arrangements, and a budget for food and things like that. So if you have specific questions about like what your budget should be or how much money you should have prepared, then just contact us and we can discuss it more. You're welcome. So I believe we should wrap up here before we get cut off by Instagram. Thanks again, Amy, for joining us for this interview and Q&A session. I know that a lot of people watching appreciate it, and of course you can watch it again on YouTube and I believe Instagram TV. It'll be posted there as well. Again, my name is Nathan. I'm the International Student Coordinator for Google Hanguk. If you can communicate in English, then you'll speak with me. We also support Spanish and Italian. So Christina is the Spanish student coordinator and Sabrina is the Italian coordinator. So feel free to contact us in those languages as well. If you struggle with English, Spanish, or Italian, then of course we can try to help you still as much as we can through Google Translate and such. But the documents that you'll need to prepare for the schools need to be in English or Korean. So we can of course walk you through the process of what you need to prepare. We don't work with that school, Angela, so if you have specific questions about that school, then I would contact them directly, especially if it's for, say, a degree or graduate school, something like that, or Korean language. Didn't think we had any other questions on Instagram. A lot of people joining, looks like. So I think we'll wrap it up here. Anything else you'd like to say before we end it?
I think everything got covered. Just a note on the budget. For example, I planned my budget when I came, but it depends on how you are. But Korea is very tempting. There's lots of things that you do.
Yeah.
It's very maybe plan a little bit more into your budget than what you expect. But just a little statement.
Yeah. Of course, the reality of living here may be different than your plan. So, but yeah, there's a lot of things to, as we mentioned, delicious things to eat and a lot of things to shop for and places to go and things to see. So, yeah, you can budget your fun category as well. Don't forget to have fun. So we'll sign off here. Again, you can rewatch the interview on YouTube and Instagram, and we'll be sure to bring you more videos like this soon. Stay tuned for more information about either deadlines and the online course as well. And we're always here to assist you. I believe we posted the contact form link in the YouTube chat. And for Instagram people, it's googlehangook.com/en, like for English, /hashtag or pound symbol, one of the, either one, contact form, all one word. So, but if you go to our website and scroll down to the bottom, you can also see the contact form there. And yeah, I believe that's it. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, YouTube.